$1,500. That's what the shop quoted to replace one piece of glass. Not the engine, not the transmission, the windshield. And here's what stops people cold. The glass itself, the actual pane you look through that was maybe $300, $400 of the bill. So where did the other $1,100 or $1,200 go? Nobody hands you an itemized answer at the counter. They slide the total across and wait for your card. So today we're going to do the thing nobody at that counter will do for you. We're going to follow the money. Every dollar, every hand it passes through. Until you know exactly what you're paying for and, just as important, which part of it is real and which part isn't. I'm Ellen. This is the Owner's Report. If you're the kind of person who keeps a vehicle 10, 12, 15 years, like a lot of you, like me, then stick with me here, because this is going to change how you read a repair estimate for the rest of the time you own a car. Now, let me back up for a second, because that $1,500 number needs a little honesty around it. Not every windshield costs that. If you're driving something from 2010, older, simpler, a good independent shop might still swap your glass for a few $100 and send you on your way. Same as always. But if your vehicle is newer, say roughly 2018 or later, the odds are high that $1,500 or something climbing toward it is exactly what you're looking at. And the reason has almost nothing to do with the glass. Here's the number that tells the story. Just a few years back, a straightforward windshield on a common car ran you around $300 to $400, all in. Today, on a lot of newer vehicles, that same job routinely lands between $1,200 and $1,500. That's not inflation. Inflation didn't triple anything. Something else got added to the bill. A whole second repair, really one you can't see, that didn't exist on your last car. So let's trace it. Where does the money actually go? Start with what you can see. A rock kicks up on the highway, taps your glass, and by the next morning there's a crack running across your field of view. You call around, you get a quote, and the quote is double, triple what you remember paying the last time this happened. Your first instinct, and I don't blame you for it, is that somebody's gouging you. Somebody saw a late model truck in the lot and padded the number. Sometimes that's true. We'll get to that part, because there is real opportunism in this business and I want you to be able to spot it. But most of that extra money, it's going somewhere specific for a specific reason. And once you understand the reason, you'll never look at your windshield the same way again. Because your windshield isn't just a window anymore, it's a mounting bracket. For a camera, look up and behind your rearview mirror. On most newer vehicles, there's a little housing tucked up there against the glass. Inside it is a forward-facing camera. That camera is the eye for a whole family of safety systems, the ones the industry lumps together under a term you've probably heard, ADAS, Advanced Driver Assistance Systems. That's just the umbrella name for lane keeping, forward collision warning, automatic emergency braking, adaptive cruise control, the features that watch the road and either warn you or step in. And that camera does not work by feel, it works by geometry. Here's the thing that matters, and it's the whole ball game. So let me slow down. That camera is aimed, not roughly, precisely down to a fraction of a degree. From the factory, it was set to look at the road at an exact angle, so that when it sees a lane line or the back of a stopped car, it knows precisely how far away that thing is and where it sits relative to your vehicle. Now picture what a windshield replacement actually is. A technician cuts the old glass out, scrapes the frame, lays down fresh adhesive, and sets a new pane in. Even done perfectly, and I mean flawlessly, the new glass sits a hair differently than the old one. The bracket the camera clips to is now off by the tiniest amount, a millimeter here, a fraction of a degree there. And a fraction of a degree doesn't sound like much. But run that angle out down the road, out to where your automatic braking has to decide whether that's a parked car or a shadow, and that tiny error at the camera becomes feet of error out in the world. The camera's now looking at the wrong patch of road and doesn't know it. So the camera has to be re-aimed, taught all over again, exactly where straight ahead is. That process has a name. It's called calibration. And calibration, not the glass, is where most of your money went. Now, there are two ways to calibrate that camera, and the difference explains a lot about your bill. Stay with me, because this is the part almost nobody spells out for you. The first way is called static calibration. Static, meaning the car doesn't move. The vehicle gets parked in a shop, on a floor that's genuinely level, in controlled lighting. Then the technician sets up a target in front of it. Picture a big flat board printed with a pattern. It honestly looks like an oversized version of one of those square barcodes on your cereal box. That board has to be placed at an exact distance, an exact height, exactly centered on the vehicle, following the car maker's specification down to the centimeter. Then a diagnostic computer plugs into the car, tells the camera to look at that target, and walks it through relearning its own aim. The whole setup, measuring, positioning, running the sequence takes somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 minutes to an hour and a half. The second way is called dynamic calibration. Dynamic meaning the car does move. Here, a technician actually drives your vehicle on the road at specific speeds, on a stretch with clear lane markings, in decent weather, while the system watches real lane lines and reteaches itself on the fly. And here's why static is so finicky, because this is where the cost really comes from. That level floor isn't a nicety, it's a requirement. If the floor tilts even slightly, the target's height relative to the camera is wrong, and the whole calibration is wrong with it. The lighting matters because the camera is reading a printed pattern and glare throws it off. The distance from the target to the car is specified by the car maker down to the centimeter, and it's different for a Toyota than it is for a Ford than it is for a Subaru, so a shop can't just eyeball it. They're measuring, squaring the vehicle, positioning a target on a stand, and running a computer sequence that either passes or fails, and if it fails, they start over. And some vehicles, this is the part that really runs the bill up, some vehicles need both. Static first, in the shop, then a road drive to confirm it. The industry calls that dual calibration, and it's common on newer, more loaded vehicles with several systems that all have to agree with each other. On a vehicle like that, one glass job is really 3 jobs stacked. Pull and set the glass, run the static target, then take it out on the road. Each one is somebody's time. So think about what that shop actually needs to pull this off. A bay big enough and level enough for static targets. The physical target boards themselves, and there's a different one for different makes. A licensed software subscription to the car maker's calibration system, which they pay for whether they use it once a day or 10 times. A technician trained and certified to run it. And the clock, a job that used to be 45 minutes of glass work, is now that plus another hour and a half of precision setup. That's not a window anymore. That's a window bolted to a small, specialized alignment procedure, and you're paying for both. And here's a knock-on effect most people never connect. That equipment and that software subscription are expensive enough that a lot of small, independent glass shops, the ones that used to give you the good, cheap price, simply can't do the calibration in-house. So they either send your car out to a shop that can, which adds a trip and a markup, or they tell you to take it to the dealer, where the labor rate is higher to begin with. Either way, the work that used to happen in one afternoon at one place now bounces between 2, and every stop takes its cut. The technology didn't just add a step, it quietly reshaped who's even allowed to do the job, and that reshaping is part of what you're paying for, whether anybody explains it that way or not. So let's line the money up and watch where it moves, because costs don't vanish, they migrate. They move from one hand to the next, and each hand takes its piece. Hand 1, the glass supplier. On an ADAS vehicle, the glass often can't be just any glass. The optical clarity has to be right so the camera sees cleanly through it, and the camera bracket has to sit in exactly the right spot. Think about that for a second. Your camera is looking at the road through that pane. If the glass has even a slight optical distortion, a little ripple you'd never notice with your own eyes, the camera notices. Its picture of the road gets bent. So you're frequently looking at original equipment glass or a genuinely high-grade equivalent, not the cheapest pane on the shelf. And original equipment glass, with the acoustic layers and heating elements and the precise bracket a lot of these vehicles carry, costs more than the plain glass you remember. That's real money, and it's the first hand the money passes through. Hand 2, the shop's labor to actually cut and set the glass. That part hasn't changed much. Still real work, still skilled, but roughly what it always was. Hand 3, and this is the new one, the big one, the calibration. The equipment, the software license, the certified time, the level floor space that sits there earning nothing until it's needed. Depending on the vehicle and whether it needs static, dynamic, or both, The calibration alone commonly adds somewhere from $150 on the low end to $500 on the high end, and on complex vehicles it can push past $700. Hand 4, your insurer. If you've got comprehensive coverage and you file a glass claim, a lot of this may run through them instead of your wallet directly, which feels like relief, and in the moment, it is. But follow it one more hand. Hand 5 is you again, because insurers don't absorb rising repair costs and forget about them. When the average glass claim triples, that shows up, eventually, in what the pool of drivers pays. Not as a line on your bill that says windshields got expensive, just as a premium that drifts up and never quite drifts back down. You paid at the shop, and then you pay again, slowly, at renewal. Same dollar, different hand. That's the chain. Glass, labor, calibration, insurer, you. And the piece that tripled your bill is that third one, the invisible repair sitting behind your mirror. Now here's where I have to be fair, because it'd be easy to end this by telling you the whole thing is a racket. It isn't, and I'd be lying to you if I said it was. Let me give the other side its due. That calibration step is not made up. It's not a shop inventing work. A camera that's aimed even slightly wrong is genuinely dangerous, and not in a vague way. Picture the failure. Your automatic emergency braking is looking down the road for a stopped car. The camera's off by a hair, so it's actually reading the lane one over, or judging distance wrong. And it fires late. Or it doesn't fire at all. Or worse, it slams the brakes for a shadow it misread while someone's tailgating you. The car makers and the safety folks who insist on calibration aren't wrong about the physics. A safety system that's pointed the wrong way isn't a safety system. It's a liability with a nice name. So when a reputable shop tells you your vehicle needs calibration after a glass swap, in most cases they're not padding the bill. They're doing the job correctly. That's my honest read, and it's backed by the engineering, not by anybody's marketing. Which actually makes the whole thing trickier, not simpler. Because when the expensive step is also the legitimate step, it gets very hard to tell honest cost from opportunism. So let's separate those two things cleanly, because they are not the same thing, and I don't want you treating them like they are. Here's what's confirmed, with a name attached to it. Back in 2023, AAA, the Auto Club, the folks who send the tow truck, ran an actual study on what these systems cost to repair. They took a few common 2023 vehicles, a Ford, a Nissan, a Toyota, and had professional estimators price out real repair scenarios. On the windshield job specifically, they found the ADAS-related portion, the camera and its calibration, came to about a quarter of the total repair cost, right around $360 of it, on a job totaling roughly $1,440. And across the systems they looked at, they found this technology could add up to nearly 38% to a repair bill after a crash. That's the confirmed part. That's not me guessing. That's a documented study, and I'll point you to it in a minute so you can read it yourself. Now, here's the suspected part, the part where the games get played, because that legitimate calibration cost creates cover for a few moves that aren't so legitimate. Move 1, the low ball that skips calibration. A shop quotes you a beautiful low price, does a clean glass install, and just quietly doesn't calibrate or tells you it's optional. It isn't optional if your vehicle's maker requires it. You drove off cheap, but your safety systems may be aiming at the wrong world, and you have no idea. Move 2, the cheap glass that fights the camera. Remember, the camera has to see cleanly through the pane. Put in bargain glass with slight optical distortion or a bracket that's a touch off, and the calibration can fail or pass and then drift. Now you're back in the shop, paying twice. Move 3, the calibration you paid for but maybe didn't get. This is the one that's hardest to catch, and it's exactly why I'm about to hand you a specific question to ask. So, confirmed. The calibration cost is real. It's roughly a quarter to a third of your bill, and it's there for a genuine safety reason. Suspected and worth guarding against. Some shops use that legitimate step as a place to cut corners in one direction or pad the bill in the other. Two different things. Treat them differently. And I want to be careful here, because this is exactly the spot where it's tempting to go too far. There's no secret meeting where the glass industry, the car makers, and the insurers all agreed to triple your windshield. I've got no evidence of that, and I'm not going to pretend I do. What there is, and this is different, is a set of lined-up incentives. The car maker wants the safety systems. The safety systems need the camera. The camera needs calibration. The calibration needs equipment somebody has to pay for, and every one of those steps is defensible on its own. Line them all up, though, and the person at the end of the line, you, at the counter, is holding a bill 3 times what it used to be. Nobody had to conspire for that to happen. Aligned incentives don't need a plan. That's the honest version, and it's the version I'd rather you carry around than a cartoon villain. Let me put you in the moment, because this is where it actually lands on you. You're standing at the counter, you handed over your keys 20 minutes ago. The person behind the desk scans your VIN into their system, waits, and looks back up. Okay, so your truck's got the forward camera up top, which means after we set the glass, it's got to be calibrated. That's another $350 on top of the glass. And in that exact second, you have no way to know if that's fair. It sounds like a lot. It might be completely honest. It might be padded. And because you don't know how the thing works, you either swallow it or you feel like a sucker for swallowing it. That's the moment this whole video is built to fix. Because after today, you're not standing there guessing. You're standing there with 3 questions that flip the whole exchange. Let's get you those. Here's what to actually do. 4 things, and none of them cost you a dime. They just cost the shop the ability to bluff. 1. Get a VIN-based quote before anybody touches your car. Not a ballpark, over the phone. Give them your VIN, that's the long serial number on your dashboard by the windshield or your door jamb, and make them tell you in advance and in writing whether your specific vehicle needs calibration, static or dynamic or both, and what each line costs. A real shop can do this. A shop that gets cagey about it just told you something. 2. Ask the magic question straight out. Does this quote include calibration? And will I get the calibration documentation when it's done? That second half is the one that matters. Reputable calibration produces a report, a printout, or a file showing the camera was re-aimed and passed. Ask for it. If calibration is on your bill, that paperwork should be too. A shop that charged you for calibration and can't produce the report is a shop you want to ask hard questions. 3. Ask about the glass itself. Is this original equipment glass or aftermarket? And if it's aftermarket, is it approved for my camera? There are good aftermarket panes and there are bad ones. On an ADAS vehicle, the wrong glass is how you end up paying twice. You're allowed to ask what's going in your car. 4, and this one can save you the whole bill. Before you pay out of pocket, call your insurer and ask exactly how your comprehensive coverage handles glass, including the calibration. This varies a lot by state and by policy. Some states have glass rules so favorable that a covered replacement, calibration included, costs you little or nothing out of pocket. Others don't. I can't tell you which bucket you're in. That depends on where you live and what you signed. But it is a 5-minute phone call, and it is the single highest value call you'll make all week if your glass is cracked right now. And because I don't ever want you taking my word for the numbers, here's where you check me. That study I cited, the one that puts the calibration piece at about a quarter of the bill, search AAA ADAS Repair Cost Study 2023. It's published on AAA's own Newsroom site. Go read what they found and see if my summary holds up. It will. Then do one more search. This one about your own life, your state's name, plus auto glass insurance law. 5 minutes. You'll find out whether your state treats windshield replacement as a special covered item and whether the calibration rides along with it. That one search can be worth hundreds of dollars to you. That's the whole point of this channel, not to scare you about your windshield, to hand you the receipts so you're the most informed person standing at that counter. So where did your $1,500 windshield bill actually go? A few hundred to the glass, a chunk to the labor that's always been there. And the rest, the part that tripled it to a small, real, genuinely necessary alignment procedure for a camera you never asked for and can't see, sitting up behind your mirror, watching the road. Some of that cost is honest. Some of it, depending on who you hand your keys to, isn't. Now you can tell the difference. That's the difference between owning the car and just paying for it. My own vehicle's got a few years on it now, and I've got no plans to replace it. If that's you too, this stuff isn't going away. It's coming to every windshield eventually. So it's worth knowing. If this was useful, you know what to do to help the next person find it. And I'll see you on the next report.